Welcome, Chosen One.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to part 4 of my Price of Power Once Upon a Pyre review. That it just gets it gets worse. It gets worse every time when I try to say that. I should just call it something else, but I'm too deep. This is part 4 of, I guess, 7 if I do the neutrals. But there's only 2 neutrals, so it's gonna be 6. It's gonna be 6. Spoiler alert. Today we'll be covering Nilfgaard. A faction I was actually very interested to see what they were going to do with, because the faction hint that we got was skillful deck manipulation, and I think we were all showing a healthy amount of skepticism on that one. I was very hopeful that they were actually going to make it skillful, and you know what? I think they got a lot closer than I could have ever hoped they actually would. So, we're going to look at some Nilfgaard cards today. Before that, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone, because the channel did, again, pass 10,000 subs. If you've been around for a few months, you may remember we did pass 10,000 subscribers, I believe in January. If not early February, I don't quite remember. But then I had to take a 2-month break with only like a couple of videos for a 2-month duration. Even tried a different game, Valheim, which did not sit well with a lot of people. Dropped about 300 subs, but we were now back above 10,000. So thank you to everyone who stuck with me, to everyone who has joined / returned to bring us back up to that sweet 10K. I gotta say, I missed that number. I really missed it. It's a beautiful number. But enough about that. That may be a video of its own for later. But now let's look at some Nilfgaard cards. We're going to start with Mage Assassin, the common. 4 provision, 2 power, a human mage agent. Right off the bat, I just want to say that it's cool that they are not only mages, but they're also agents. Because it makes sense, but it also plays into, you know, False Siri, which boosts all your allied agents. Maybe that'll be a good card now. There's actually a decent chance it will. Deploy a damage an enemy unit by 2. So it's a wolf pack. If moved to the top of your deck during your turn, summon itself to random allied row and damage a random enemy unit by 2. So I probably should have started with the next card, because it would just make more sense in that order. But basically, you never want to play this from hand. You never want to play this card. You want to somehow magically move it to the top of your deck, and it'll come out and be worth 2 to 4 points, depending on if you have something to hit, if you hit armor, shield, a 1 strength unit. I'd say you will rarely get less than 3 points, because you should always be able to hit something. Unless you're playing against, NR Witchers and they have just a bunch of shields. So, it'll come out, be worth 2 to 4 points. I think 3 or 4 should be easy enough to achieve consistently. So it's very similar to Tursak Skirmisher, which of course has to be discarded from your hand in order to do a very similar thing. Of course, just with a straight up 4-point body. And I think I'm just going to go to the next card, because these 2 first cards they belong together, and they're easy to talk about with the context of both. What am I doing? Am I moving my webcam? No, I'm moving the whole thing. Wow. I don't usually record like this. So yeah, once again, some of these images are a little bit smaller. I get them from different sources, and some just happen to be bigger. This is the Blight Maker, another human mage agent. 4 for 5. Deploy, move a card in your deck to the top. If it was a mage, spawn the Guardian on this row. That is the 3 strength construct token that Cynthia usually spawns on the opponent's deck. If it was a special card, spawn and play a cow carcass, which is, of course, the 1 strength spying unit, bam, that on the end of the opponent's turn will poison adjacent units. Of course, up until now, that was only spawnable by Rot Tosser, which is a 5 for 5. So, if you do get a special card on top of your deck with this, you're essentially playing a slightly worse Rot Tosser, but you are putting any special card in your deck on top of it, which has its uses. Like, it's not bad. Nilfgaard has some draw cards effects, some look at the top 3 cards of your deck effects, stuff like that. And being able to manipulate your deck in a way that lets you get to the cards you want when you want them, that's pretty good. Although I don't think that cow carcass thing is going to be very relevant. I don't think this is going to go into decks that use poison a lot. I mean, Rot Tosser isn't really that good already, so why play this as a worse Rot Tosser? So really, you want that sweet Guardian. Again, that's a 3 strength token, unless they're going to change it, which I doubt. Although they could make it 2 strength. That would be a buff to Cynthia, and a nerf to this card. And honestly, this card could maybe use it, because obviously you put the Mage Assassin on top. You currently, with the Guardian being 3 strength, you get 7 points from Blight Maker, plus another 2-point body, plus the 2 random damage. So 9 to 11 points, depending on what you hit. Plus you thin your deck for 1. For a 5 provision card and a 4 provision card. Now, as many have pointed out, this is better than all the thinning bronzes, Hunting Pack, Imperial Brigade, which is 2 5 provision cards, but only an 8-point play. So this is worth like 1 to 3 more points for 1 less provision. Of course, like the one major thing that makes, I mean, the one respect in which this mage combo is worse is that you have to draw Blightmaker and have Mage Assassin in your deck. Sorry, it's a little bit late. My voice is a little bit tired. But yeah, you have to have Mage Assassin in your deck, Blightmaker in hand. With an Imperial Brigade, you can draw either one of them and have the other one in your deck. So that's more consistent. Of course, here you can draw Mage Assassin and it's like, okay, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? You can use an effect like Tactical Decision. It's still called that, right? Yes. To put it on top of your deck, and you will get the effect similar to Afan. But all in all, a cool combo. Blight Maker, I have to say, this type of design is very, very interesting. Very, very cool. One of my favorite bronzes in the game, I will say, just design-wise, or like the concept, the idea of it is very interesting. I would love to see more like this. I don't think it's actually that modular of a card, because again, when will you use the cow carcass? I mean, if you play an agent deck with all these mage agents, the magents, if you will, and you also have Fangs of the Empire, some other poison, then you do have it as a backup option. If you really need a special card on top of your deck, you can do that and get some value from the poison. But I mean, this will always be played to move Mage Assassin to the top. Big tempo play, thins your deck. It's just good. And, you know, one thing that I'm sure people have mentioned, but Swarm. This, with the Mage Assassin put on top, that's 3 units. That's a high tempo deck thinning play that puts 3 units on your board. That seems relevant. This is a low low base power target for slave infantry. You can play an 8-point slave infantry on this mage assassin. If for whatever reason you want to do that. But putting 3 units on the board with high tempo and deck thinning, that is no joke. Will Nilfgaard ever have a successful swarm deck? We don't know. But it could be this. Okay, but I've talked about these cards for like 11 minutes now. So let's move on to the talk of the town. Riens. Is it Riens or Riens? Riens. 5 strength, 13 provisions. Deploy, look at the top 3 units in your deck. Move 1 to your graveyard, then destroy an enemy unit with power equal to that unit's power. Order, set the power of a unit to match the number of cards in your deck. So, you play him, you look at the top 3 units in your deck, you choose 1 to move to the graveyard, and then you destroy an enemy unit with power equal to that unit's power. Not equal or less, only equal. If you look at a Nilfgaardian Knight and move it to your graveyard with Riens, you may destroy an enemy unit with 7 power, but not less than 7. And this is where the card seems a little funky to me. It's very cool. I like the design. Again, going with the theme of deck manipulation. I'm very on board with this theme. It's a very Nilfgaard feeling playstyle that also does not make your opponents want to kill themselves. I dig it. I really do. I want it to be very good. I want it to be extremely playable. And I of course want their associated legendary card to be playable. And that's just, I don't know if it will be. I mean, sure. There, like in many matchups, there are going to be units with like 4 or 5 strength. I think that's a very normal starting off point. And you can have that in your deck, and then you can look at 3 of them and hopefully get one of the numbers you want. But if you don't have that, if you don't have the exact power on any unit in your deck, his deploy is 0 points. And then he's just a 5 strength body that has to survive a turn. That's just not good. It just it doesn't sit right with me. I mean, I will say though, we are most likely getting reworks for Nilfgaard to go with these new cards. I really hope so, but I would expect so. Because I think a big part of why they're doing these smaller expansions is to be able to rework old unplayable cards to fit with these new cards, fit with the new themes, and not just blast out new cards for every new effect they want to put in. And I think that's very good. I think that's, you know, the best idea I've heard in a long time. And maybe we'll get something to work with Riens. Obviously, Rico, Mayersdorf, who will, you know, set his power to that of the last unit your opponent played, while in hand or deck. Like, that's a decent card. I don't actually know exactly how he works, but I think he sets his power to the current power of the unit. Is that it? So like if the opponent plays V and then gets a Barghest from their haunt, and that Barghest becomes like 27 points or whatever, does Riku go to 27? Or does he go to 5? Because that's the base power. I don't know. I need to know how that card works. But if that's how it works, then that's, you know, a very good combo. Like, you play Hyper Thin, you thin to the point where you will guaranteed get Rico with Riens, Wait for your opponent to play something big. Rico sets his power to match. And then you can get good value from the deploy. In which case the card is pretty good. It's pretty good. But I don't know how Rico works. And obviously you are discarding Rico, essentially. So a 6 provision card in your deck that's not meant to be played. It's meant to be discarded. But I mean, it's valuable, right? It's like Morkvarg is 8 provisions, but he is there to be discarded. But he is good, because you get 5 points of tempo when you discard him. Which is good. You know, same with this. And, you know, it does play into the skillful deck manipulation. Because, like, knowing your opponent's strategy, knowing their deck, knowing their faction, you can predict, I think, pretty accurately what specific power numbers your opponent's units, or at least some of their units, will be at. And then you can preemptively set up your deck with, you know, Blight Maker or Albrecht, who will hopefully get buffed / reworked. But still sticking with the theme. He is a mage, so he would fit perfectly with the theme, excuse me. It's late. I just... If I want to burp, I can burp. You can preemptively set it up and then be rewarded for actual prediction, skill, knowledge. And I'm very much in favor of that. I do enjoy this playstyle they're setting up for Nilfgaard. I do hope Reens will be playable. And I did give it some shit just as a joke in my Skellige reveal video. And I do think the card is very clunky. But it can work. And when it does, it's very strong. And we're most likely getting reworks that we don't yet know of that may help it. So, and the order effect, you know, we haven't even talked about that. Set the power of a unit to match the number of cards in your deck. Obviously, if you hyperthin, if you thin your deck to 0, you can kill anything with this order. Because you set its power to 0. A lot of people are saying, oh, you can use them in round 1 when you still have like 15 cards left in your deck. Or like 14 because you move one to your graveyard. And, you know, boost an allied unit by 14. If Reen survives. If he doesn't, you committed a 13 provision card in round 1 for nothing. I don't really see that being the optimal way to play him. I see Hyperthin being the best way to play him. Because then you can set up Rico for his deploy effect. And you can kill anything you want with his order. I do hope that he will be playable in some capacity. I hope there will be a deck for him. I hope we have enough skillful deck manipulation options to help set him up properly. But I will say, it is, like, regardless of how the card actually turns out, it is a bit disappointing to see Nilfgaard get, you know, another Elder Bear. You know, another order effect that needs to survive on the board to be good a lot of the time. It's expensive. It's not even that hard to kill. I mean, this card's ceiling is way above Damien or Stefan Skellen. But it's still 13 provisions and a deploy that can brick. It's a funky card. Like all the other legendaries. We've seen all of them at this point. Besides Scoia'tael and, you know, potential neutral legendaries. I don't know if we're getting that. And they've all been very playable cards. Just strong, powerful cards with great, consistent effects. And it is disappointing to see Nilfgaard get this. But again, it has a lot of potential. It has a very high ceiling. And we could possibly get enough support for it where it's actually good. I hope so. I will keep my fingers crossed because I do want to play this new skillful deck manipulation archetype because it does seem very cool. And we have one card left. And I'm just going to do this. I'm sorry I didn't do this with the other tiny one. Okay. It doesn't want to be... It doesn't want to be any way different than this. Okay, Dead Man's Tongue. It's a 7 provision spell. Banish a card from your deck. Then boost an allied unit by that card's provision cost. If the banished card was a bronze, banish another bronze card from your deck and boost the same unit by that card's provision cost. So, this one is cool. So basically, you can either thin your deck for 2 bronzes, just get them out of your deck, thin your deck for 2, and boost by at least 8. If it's 2 4 provision cards, you boost by 8. If it's, you know, a 5 and a 4, it's 9. 2 5s, it's 10. Some people are talking about running Lacerate as a tech option. And then in matches where you don't need it, you can banish it with this for a 7-point boost plus another bronze with more boost. That works. That's not bad. But you could also go for the big boy points. Maybe you have used Yennefer's Invocation on an expensive card. Maybe you have a high provision gold in your deck that you won't be able to draw. Although that... See, that's the thing. That's an argument a lot of people have for this. It's like, oh, if you... You know, if you didn't draw your Brathens. Or let's say Usurper. You didn't draw your Usurper. You have no way to get it. Well, at least you can play a 12-point Dead Man's Tongue. That's true. A 12 for 7 is good. But I feel like this spell, you know, it goes into that hyper thin archetype. You can't play it outside of it, of course. I think it's a good card in any deck that can fit it. But I just don't know how often you will miss your golds with, you know, some of these hyper thin based cards. It will happen though. I'm considering making a Masquerade Ball deck where instead of playing Masquerade Ball, I banish it with Dead Man's Tongue. That's a 15 for 7 right there. That's great. And I don't have to play the ball. I just have it in my deck. I know it's terrible. But, you know, Dead Man's Tongue. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, just the idea of thinning your deck for 2. Just take 2 bronzes out of your deck and get decent points out of it. It's very interesting. And like that whole Lacerate thing, sure, you can run bronze tech cards. You can run Squirrel. And then you come up against something where you know, okay, there's not going to be anything I want to banish here. I might as well banish my Squirrel. Get it out of my deck, get 4 points. Thin my deck for 1 more card, get more points. That seems good. Honestly, it's not super spectacular. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's a 7 provision epic card. Like, it just... All we can ask is that it's good. And I think it is. I think it's really good. I think it's really good. And, you know, there are those matchups where, you know, you play a Neuromancy. You get it back with Echo. But you've already drawn all your cards that you wanted. And it's like, okay, I have to Neuromancy for like a 7 provision card that is not even that good here. Or you can just mulligan it and Dead Man's Tongue it for 13 points. Why not? It is pretty good. I think it's a flexible card. It plays very well into the deck manipulation archetype, the hyper thin archetype, but it also does work perfectly fine in any Nilfgaard deck that just wants a good thinning tool. I think this is a good thinning tool. You know, it's like I've been looking at The Last Wish many times just wishing that it was good. Because, you know, 8 provisions, you play a card from your deck, but you actually thin your deck by 2. That's pretty good. But there is that risk of, okay, I got 2 golds. I have to banish one of these golds. This is essentially the same thing, except you can get rid of any 1 or 2 cards you want, and be sure that you're getting at least a decent amount of points. So I really like this. You know, overall, I will say Reens, Mr. Reens, he is the most disappointing card so far. And not because I know it's going to be terrible, because I think there is still hope. And I want it to be good. And I think it can be good with the right support, with the right skillful deck manipulation, you know what I'm saying? And it is cool. It's a cool design. So it's not disappointing in that way. It's just like all the legendary cards, they're very playable, aren't they? They've been very playable so far. And we've seen most of them. And like honestly, I'm just scared. Like not scared, but I'm worried that this card won't be good. Because what if it isn't? What if it isn't good? Nilfgaard gets royally screwed over for at least a month before this maybe gets buffed. And will the buff even be significant enough? We don't know. So I really hope it ends up actually being playable from release. Like on release, it's good. That's great. But overall, like Nilfgaard, the theme, I love it. The art, I almost forgot to mention the art, but it is great. It is great. The bronzes, really cool interaction. Really strong. Really good. Really, really good. Dead Man's Tongue. I think it's a very interesting card. Very flexible. Can be used in many, many decks. And really help with flexibility. Obviously, it does help Reens because of the whole Hyperthin thing. And, you know, Reens, we just gotta wait and see. I really do want it to be good. I don't want Nilfgaard to get screwed over with this archetype, with this mage agent deck manipulation theme, because it's actually good. It's a good theme. Like, you don't make your opponent miserable, but you're still doing something fun, unique, and interesting. Like, make that good. Please make that good. Anyway. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Do let me know down below what you think of the Nilfgaard cards. Do you see some hope in Reens' future? Or are you one of the many people who are very upset? And I think rightfully so. But again, we don't know the full context yet. So we can't judge a card like this. Yet. But let me know what you think. And thanks again for 10,000 subs. Again. It did feel a little bit better the second time, though. For some reason. Yeah, there's nothing left to say. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. And I hope to see you again soon. I mean, the Skellige video will come out tomorrow. This one is a day late because Dead Man's Tongue wasn't revealed until very late yesterday, so I didn't have time. So it's coming out today. My Skellige review comes out tomorrow. We have yet to see the final 2 cards. I'm very hyped. Extremely, extremely hyped, because I will be playing Skellige on day 1. There's no doubt about that now. Skellige. Save it for tomorrow. Save it for tomorrow, bro. I'll see you soon.